Chase, good evening to you, sir. Duncan, bits of Duncan everywhere. Thank you very much for thank you very much for visiting. We're trying to be very professional here, Duncan.
Yes.
This is a very sober broadcast that we're doing here, my friend. What the heck are you up to there? This is like
I'm sorry.
Lost in Space. Thanks very much, chat, for popping in this very short notice. We were just recording a session for this coming Wednesday's Rokk Around the Clock because we, as you can see, our very dear friend Chase very graciously afforded us some time today in a very incredibly busy schedule. We couldn't have done it live on Wednesday, unfortunately. So we were just talking about the whole Apple cloud gaming and Tim Sweeney Epic and Apple and the whole kind of Apple thing that's going down. And during the conversation, Duncan found something which just blew us away, quite frankly. It's a document which has only just gone live. So I'm going to switch over to this now so you can see what we found, what Duncan found. It's essentially a patent request from Apple, which in essence states that they wish to patent, I prefer patent, you can call it what you like, cloud gaming on 5G devices and literally own that entire space on 5G in the same breath as trying to stop other people from conducting cloud gaming on iOS devices. Chase, what was your initial thoughts when you saw this?
We literally were in the process of talking, Adam and Duncan, about how the process legally for this would be that Apple would have to change course. But, there was the innuendo that the reason they were doing this was maybe Apple Arcade and maybe they were working on something, but nothing present to where you could show willful intent. This changes things, folks. And I tweeted out that, oh my goodness, folks, this is a big deal. And I'm going to tell you why. When you can show willful intent and a reason, a calculated decision on why you're stopping competition from other individuals from being on your marketplace in your space, that then moves to a willful intent situation and damages. So if Google and Microsoft are able to show that they've lost revenue because of this move that is happening by Apple in real time, ladies and gentlemen, this is earth-shattering news. And not only does it go to show us that Apple is in fact trying to go down the route of cloud gaming, it shows us that the statements they've made publicly about, we can't regulate ratings with video games, but yet they don't mind it with Netflix. It shows willful intent that they're trying to block competition from being on their marketplace so that they can corner the cloud gaming ecosystem on iOS. They are in serious legal jeopardy here, ladies and gentlemen. This is a big, big deal.
And this is something that, this, as we know, was published on Thursday. So we can see here the international publication date was 13th of August. But the actual filing was February of this year. So this is something that they've been considering for some time. This isn't a reaction to the recent interest from cloud gaming with xCloud and Stadia. This is something that these guys have been looking at. So it genuinely undermines their case completely. It virtually throws it out the door before any real proceedings have taken place.
Yep, it's going to make things really interesting tomorrow when people realize what is going on. So, the guys over here at Patently Apple discovered this yesterday because it was only released there on Friday, and some numpty found it today. And so, I think this is going to really put the cat amongst the pigeons here to just for why cloud stuff is not allowed on Apple. There's some interesting things in there. It looks like they're, again, we've only briefly read about this here. It looks like it's going to be a subscription model. I mentioned subscription, so there's your Netflix of games, which we don't want to talk about when Stadia is involved. But this is pretty big and pretty significant. It's going to be fun. It's really going to be fun.
It's interesting because if you look at that graphic there, it is in essence just a standard graphic that shows cloud gaming, or at least a cloud delivered service. So end user, which they're showing here as user end, UE. I don't know whether that's just being clever or what's gone wrong there. And then in essence, a transmitting device, in this case, 5G. They are specifically trying to claim 5G as for the patent itself. And then obviously coming through from one or more network elements and an original application server, which is in essence how cloud gaming or cloud delivered services works, full stop. But to try and claim ownership of anything that is transmitted via 5G, I mean, not only does that presumably can't stand water anyway, can it, Chase?
It can't, but it really hurts there, because this is the thing. This has not been public. So because it was a private filing that only became public, like you said, Rokk, a couple of days ago, they've been making these public statements knowing very well the reason they've been making it. Really makes it look really bad for them. I can imagine, you said this when we were recording the session, and I agree with you 100%. Their legal team, if they didn't realize this now, I guarantee you they're huddling in a boardroom and they're trying to figure out what they're going to need to do, because Google and Microsoft, they're likely going to wait for the Fortnite decision with Epic to see what happens there. But, Apple better have a pretty good legal defense ready, because they're in some serious jeopardy here. And I don't say that, lightly. There's willful intent. I mean, there's a pattern here. This is a clear pattern that they've been making these statements knowing that they were trying to do this behind the scenes, and making disingenuous statements publicly nonetheless about this. So my goodness,
does it? It doesn't look good. Wow. So we don't think that this has adds any weight as far as the Epic Games lawsuit's concerned, because that's essentially over the slice of revenue, or the tax, the Apple tax as Epic Games calls it, that is being levied on anybody that wants to sell anything at all via iOS devices. This is very specifically about the fact that Apple have said, we don't allow cloud gaming because we can't vet the games that are being transmitted, even though, of course, no code is actually embedded on your machine. It's just a stream of video. So I don't fully understand what they need to vet to stop you from getting infected from video streaming anyway. But then they go and put this patent out there, which essentially says, but, we kind of want to reserve the right to do this ourselves, and or charge anybody that does it through our devices across 5G. It's not looking good, is it?
No, and I said this when we were recording as well, that I'm sure Duncan's going to do this week, and I'm sure others are going to go research. Has Google and Microsoft filed their own separate patents in regards to this? Because that's going to make this very interesting about timing. How did Apple go about this? And again, if a lawsuit is filed, discovery in that process is going to say, you hear this term a lot. What did you know, and when did you know it? Because making these statements that they've made, they have put themselves in a clear and present danger that they may have to pay monetary damages to these other companies that they knew they were doing this, and yet block them from going on there when they know that the only reason they're doing it is right here in this patent. They can't escape this now. This is not good for them. God, this is a bad day for Apple. I have to be quite frank and honest. They've done some really crazy things in the past. This might be one of the most shocking that I've seen.
So as I say, just to reiterate, February 2020 was when this was filed. So it's right at the dawn, essentially, of cloud gaming as we know it. And it's just made its way into public discourse now because I'm guessing it needs to be debated. I mean, that's the whole process, isn't it? You have to publish a patent so that anybody can come forward and say they've got prior claim over a particular process or product or whatever that's being designed. So in essence, this isn't an approved patent. It is the next phase in that process, and of course, but nonetheless, it is now public. It's public domain. It's published, and therefore it adds into any ongoing legal cases as evidence that Apple kind of wanting to do their own thing is not a good look. Right. Fantastic.
Duncan, God love you.
Duncan does it again. Duncan does it again. Well done, Duncan.
Okay, I will leave. So what all am I getting blamed for? So I'm getting blamed for this. We're getting blamed for Cyberpunk. What else am I getting blamed for?
So just to reiterate, the first paragraph of the article, and again, this is on patentlyapple.com. On Thursday, a new Apple patent was published in Europe titled Enabling Interactive Service for Cloud Rendering Gaming in 5G Systems. The original international filing was made February the 6th, 2020 and published this week in Europe as Apple is preparing to launch their first 5G iPhones in October. It's great to see that Apple has been working on 5G interactive cloud gaming. I think there's a little tongue-in-cheekedness there from the author. So yeah, they're clearly looking for this to be ratified in time for the iPhone 11, is it? Coming out in iPhone 12, coming out in September, which actually has been put back to October now, hasn't it? And they're clearly, therefore, looking to roll out some form of cloud gaming service, which again points to protectionism as one of the major reasons why you can't currently play xCloud or Stadia games on an iPhone. And also, interestingly enough, you'll remember from previous conversations, guys, that I've always said that the reason that you can't play Stadia on an iPhone is because the codecs don't work on the current iteration of the iOS, and Apple said at the recent developers conference that that's being changed, and in the next iPhone you will have those codecs. Of course, what they didn't say was it's because they're looking to roll out their own cloud gaming service and not necessarily there to support the others. That's got to change. I mean, I would be surprised if there aren't feverish backroom conversations taking place now so that Apple can avert any form of legal, because it's not even about the legal stuff for Apple, because quite frankly they pay billions in reparations and legal suits and so on every year. This is about saving face, as Chase says in our 45-minute long special, which you can still watch at the end of Rokk Around the Clock this coming Wednesday. The future is very much around cloud gaming on mobile devices, and specifically in certain territories where that is just the way things are done. India, China, and so on. Although China right now, under this current president, isn't likely to be happening, but it will happen eventually. So the key thing there is that they need cloud gaming to be one of the services that they offer, because it's just the way it's going to go. So it clearly they have to be doing a deal that allows other services. Whether they get a cut of the revenue, I don't know how they're going to do that, but I think they're going to need to avoid. What they can't do is lose too much face. And because let's face it, particularly in those countries, even though I know in China they're discounted iPhones, so that they're more affordable. And I think also the case in India, they have cheaper models on sale. They can't afford to lose face when it's just easy as anything to fire up an Android and play on them. So this has to be a big change coming. And we now know the timescales. We know this has to happen in time for the next iPhone, because that's when this patent is being lined up for. We know that xCloud being folded into Game Pass Ultimate is also happening in September. We know that new territories are about to be rolled out for Stadia, and I would make an assumption that that's going to be in a similar time frame. So September, October time is where all this comes to a massive head. Chase, would you agree with any of that?
100%. It's always been a space race. This has always been a who can get to these emerging territories first. And, I think everyone's going to have a bit of a different reaction to this, as far as looking at how the landscape's playing out with Apple. And now you've got NVIDIA, you've got Google, and you've got Microsoft. They're all trying to make moves into these markets as quickly as they potentially can. Because it comes down to who can get into those spaces first and get the share of the consumer marketplace. I think in North America, it's not that much of a big deal. I think in the rest of the world, this is a massive, shift that we're seeing here. And again, it adds one more player to this large, emerging space that, everyone has been saying that cloud gaming wasn't really that big. We talked about this off the air, gentlemen, that we've all said last year that 2020 would be the battleground. And my goodness, is it not showing us that that's exactly what's happening? And I dare say that the implications we're seeing out of this, you may not think this is a big deal, folks. You may think that I've seen a couple reactions already on Twitter that this isn't that big of a deal. This is earth-shattering, and it's more so earth-shattering. I know, Adam, you said it was from the legal side of it. It isn't, but on the legal side of this, it absolutely is, because this is going to put Apple in a really dangerous position, in a place that I don't know that they thought they were going to be in. This has really got some serious implications about what's going to happen to them in this space versus what's going to happen to Microsoft, what's going to happen to Google, what's going to happen to NVIDIA, what's going to happen to Amazon. You're seeing so many chess pieces being moved here. This is a really big deal, and you really should treat it as such. I don't think this is just a minor pothole in the road. This is a massive bit of news, ladies and gentlemen.
And what's interesting as well is that this is specifically a European patent, and all of the designated states there are essentially two-letter codes for European countries. We've got GB hidden away in there somewhere. Is there an American equivalent of this, or are they avoiding that one on the basis of the fact that all of the current cases we're talking about are going to be filed in the States, and this can't be used as evidence in that respect?
Rokk, at the bottom of that there, it says US. There's GB in there, and there's US. There's you said.
It could be Uzbekistan. I don't know. It does say, it does say an international. It does say international application. You're right. The only question over that was that it says, if I can get back to the article.
Yeah, I'm assuming said W would be Zimbabwe, wouldn't it? Isn't that?
Here's the only flip side to that argument, though, Adam, is that the block that they're doing is not localized to North America. This is a global move that Apple has made. Yeah. So even though it's going to be filed in a U.S. court, more than likely, it has international implications, and it will absolutely be admissible in discovery. Yes. So I think, again, Apple has overplayed their hand here. And I think some people in their company said some public statements that now when their lawyers go back and look at it, they're going to say, goodness gracious, what were you thinking? Because now you've got us in serious legal jeopardy. And they are. I mean, as of today, when this went live and we noticed this, they are on the clock. They are officially on the clock on this. And they're going to have to figure out what their legal strategy is going to be, because I really think they're in the territory of willful intent here, where damages are going to have to be paid out potentially. If Google and Microsoft can prove that, if they can, yeah, man, it's a very interesting situation now. It's much different than what we started talking about.
It certainly is. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for more of your time, in truth. Chase, can you just remind everybody where they can find you these days?
You can find me on Twitter at Phantom TWOS TSI. Every Tuesday night, 8:30 p.m. EDT. I do the This Week on Stadia Unfiltered podcast with Eddie and Kai over on the Eddie Player One YouTube channel. And then every 2 weeks over on the Club Stadia YouTube channel, we do the Stadia Initiative. It's Brian, Germani, 64, MM2K, Megatron X, Eddie, and myself. So that's at 8 p.m. every 2 weeks, EDT over on the Club Stadia YouTube channel.
Fantastic. Fantastic shows, all of them as well. Duncan, where are you these days? Unless you found anything new that you want to share with us before we go.
I think I'm going to need to go into hiding now because I'm annoying Google, I'm annoying now Apple. So who else is there for me there now? So
You're
I'm
just
not
saying
going
it
to.
as it is, my friend. You're just saying it as it is.
Yeah, you can catch me at One to Escape on Twitter. I also check out Cloudy with Games on Twitter as well.
Thank you very much. And as I say, if you watch Rokk Around the Clock on Wednesday, the full 45-minute interview and discussion that we had about the whole issue of both Apple with Microsoft, Google, and Epic Games, which I can assure you is a fantastic discussion. In fact, the guys had to beat me into allowing us to go live with this because I said, no, I really love what we've just done. I don't want to undermine it in any way. What if it's not as good? Turns out this was great. Thank you, everybody in chat, for joining us. As always, your support is absolutely invaluable. So Rokk Around the Clock on Wednesday, and Rockstars are back on Friday night as well. So we look forward to seeing you there. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody. Speak to you all soon. Cheers.
Bye, everybody.
Rokk out.